Imagine for a moment waking up in a world where your country's flag no longer flies. The colors of the Stars and Stripes flag and the grandeur of the Statue of Liberty no longer symbols of a nation, but a distant memory. What would remain of the values on which your great nation was founded? And what would happen to your soul and identity without the connective tissue that holds us all together? In the Zen story that you will hear shortly, we will see what happens if we lose our national identity and our sense of belonging to our land. Because the concepts of national identity, sense of belonging, and patriotism are not only linked to politics and society, but to the most intimate sphere of each of us. And this is why these concepts have a very close connection with our spiritual growth and our emotional balance. So, sit back and watch the video all the way through, because you will discover what would happen to you if you lost your national identity overnight. But before continuing, if you are not yet one of us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay informed about upcoming publications. One evening, in the quiet garden of the monastery, the disciples gathered around Tadashi, the elderly Buddhist monk known for his wisdom and compassion. With a serene face, Tadashi began to speak, echoing the wind that caressed the leaves of the trees in the surrounding forest. "Dear disciples," the monk began, "today I want to take you on a journey through the depths of our spirit, exploring the indissoluble link between our spirituality, inner peace, sense of belonging, and national identity. Because our sense of belonging, our national identity, are more than just concepts. They are the lifeblood that nourishes our community, that guides us in times of difficulty and unites us in times of joy. Without them, we are lost in the sea of uncertainties and divisions, without a moral compass to show us the way towards a common future." The disciples nodded, ready to immerse themselves in the words of the wise monk and understand the profound implications that lie behind these concepts. Everything we experience, including our connections to our land, our culture, and our history, has a direct impact on our spiritual growth, Tadashi continued. When we feel rooted in a community, when we feel the heartbeat of our nation, we find a stability that allows us to face life's storms with balance and serenity. A disciple raised his hand, eager to understand better. "Master, how can we keep this connection with our land and our nation alive?" Tadashi smiled. "Through awareness and gratitude. Every day, take a moment to reflect on your roots, on your personal and collective history. Recognize the gifts your nation has given you and honor those who have fought to preserve the values that make you unique. And, in doing so, put aside the divisions and differences that may exist on a political or social level. Make sure you focus on what unites rather than what divides." Another disciple came forward and, with her eyes shining with curiosity, asked, "Master, what happens if this bond is missing?" Tadashi nodded, understanding the importance of the question. When we feel alienated from our land and our community, when we lose our sense of belonging and national identity, our soul suffers. We feel lost, like leaves carried away by the wind, deprived of a point of reference that guides us on our spiritual journey. Tadashi took a moment, letting his words sink into the hearts of his disciples. Then, to better illustrate this concept, he decided to tell the story of a young woman, Sarah. Sarah had grown up in a family that had lost its roots in its land and culture. She had never known the joy of feeling part of something bigger than herself. This girl lived her life in a state of constant searching and dissatisfaction. Despite his material successes, he never managed to find inner peace. The lack of a deep connection with her land and her community prevented her from realizing her full spiritual potential, from truly understanding who she was and where she wanted to go. A contemplative silence fell on the monastery garden as the disciples reflected on Tadashi's words, coming to the conclusion that having a well-defined identity is essential to living in peace. Here, continued the monk, this story teaches us that the sense of belonging and national identity is fundamental for our spiritual growth. When we feel part of something bigger than ourselves, we find an inner peace that allows us to radiate love and compassion into the world. As the sunset light colored the garden, enveloping the disciples in a warm embrace of wisdom and inspiration, Tadashi introduced another story that would touch the hearts of those present. There was a family, Tadashi began, a peasant family who lived on a small farm in the heart of the countryside. This family faced many challenges in their lives. The father, John, and the mother, Mary, worked hard in the fields day and night to support their children. And despite great hardship, the family was united by a deep love and a sense of solidarity. Tadashi took a short pause, allowing the words to penetrate the hearts and minds of his disciples. John and Mary's children, raised in humility and sacrifice, carried on their teaching, and over the years, with hard work and determination, they managed to transform the small farm into a thriving agricultural business. The boys, thanks to study and commitment, had understood how to make the family business grow. But above all, it was the sense of belonging and national identity that his parents had passed on to him that made the difference. The objective they had set themselves, in fact, was to involve the best forces and minds of their country in their farm and in their company, helping every single family that worked for them to escape poverty. The disciples listened reverently, touched by the family's story of perseverance and resilience. Here, said Tadashi, this story reminds us that our connection to our land and our community can nourish not only our spirit, but also our material success. When we feel rooted in our roots and make sure we work not only for ourselves, but for those around us, we are able to face any challenge with courage and determination. My dears, added the wise master, remember that just as a rudderless ship is destined to wander aimlessly in the vast and stormy ocean, so we, without our sense of national belonging and identity, are helpless in our search for inner peace and spiritual fulfillment. In the stories we explored, we saw how connection to our land, our community, and our nation is critical to nurturing our spirit and fueling our spiritual growth. Without it, we feel dispersed, alienated, deprived of a fundamental point of reference that unites us as a people and guides us on our path. So let's reflect on this topic as we prepare to face the challenges and opportunities that the future holds for us. And let us ensure that we carefully guard our sense of belonging and national identity, recognizing its value not only on earth, but also in spirit. Remember that cultivating an awareness of our connection to our nation, honoring our history, and striving for a future of unity and prosperity will always allow us to have roots firmly planted in the earth. And those roots will be our salvation in bad times and our joy in times of happiness, prosperity, and well-being.